So here's our story. Here you can see some of the brands and logos of the organizations that we partner with. Obviously, Tulane University, Families Helping Families, NOLA is the nonprofit 501c3 that we work through. It's very important for getting grants and so forth. And then New Orleans Jazz has been historic Jazz Festival, Heritage Festival has been an underwriter. Recently in the last 4 years through the New Orleans Jazz National Historical Park, they've been very deeply partnering with the program, bringing in a lot of resources. They did the music video, the editing, hired a crew from Loyola's movie department to film at Congo Square and edit it from there. So it's kind of like we really believe in the partnerships with local organizations. NORD is the New Orleans Recreation Division commission that handles all the parks. At the Sanchez Center where we're located, we have a partnership for a CEA, which cooperative endeavor agreement with them, with the city, so we can keep costs down. We don't have to pay for renting facilities. And of course, TUA's logo. This year we received a grant from the New Orleans Theater Association, and we received a grant from, I want to say, a few other organizations, and their names elude me as well. Autism gave us a grant, Autism Society of New Orleans, Louisiana last year. And if you have any questions, please feel free. Does everyone know Addison?
Hi, I'm Addison. I'm the volunteer coordinator with TUA. I've been emailing you pretty frequently. So yes, I'm Addison.
Yeah, so she's going to be helping with like the liaison person between me and you all. One of the things I want to let you know is if there's ever a time that you have something that you might feel uncomfortable bringing to my attention as the director, I want to encourage you to bring it to Addison, and she will, be the in-between. If you feel like uncomfortable approaching me, hopefully not, but just if that happens, I wanted to put that out there that that's in place for that communication line. So let's talk about the purpose of the Prism project. So serving individuals, it says 6 to 14, but it's actually 6 down to 24. That got corrected on the second line. Initially, it was that earlier age, but as the children started aging up, we extended the ages to keep them in. We do have a lot of older children this year, and some of them will be taking on the role of junior assistant staff member. So they might be assisting the other staff with, leading the younger kids and so on and so forth. So we do strive to close the gap in recreation activities in New Orleans. There's not many programs which supply the level of accommodation that we have. We have a greater than 1-to-1 ratio because of you all, and then we have 9 staff. So the children have the opportunity to express themselves, engage with others, developing self-confidence, self-esteem, and building friendships among themselves. Often there's a lot of isolation that occurs in special needs communities because people tend to sit in tracks in classrooms, and social groups don't have a larger spread as in like neurotypical social groups. So this brings in people from all over Greater New Orleans. Also, friendships can occur between children who are neurotypical and neurodiverse, and that's really wonderful too, because often that doesn't occur organically out there in other educational settings. So the orientation of this training will be an overview of talking about the special needs, the interventions used, and expectations. One of the things that I always stress, I'm going off script a little bit, is we are a process-based program, not product. So when you think about performance art, everyone's thinking we've got to get the rehearsal, we've got to get it tight, it's got to look good for the audience. We're going to throw that idea out. Here it's let's make the experience enjoyable. How can we accommodate? How can we support the engagement? So it's kind of a different mindset. So that was the major expectation, that we have a positive engagement experience. Performer expectations are to have fun and be free and supported. We do have a range of behaviors this year. I think there was about 12 different diagnoses when I looked at all of the stats. But so We do a lot of strategy to accommodate the best chemistry and the best behaviors together. There is, I think it goes on further into the PowerPoint, but briefly touching it, we have 3 classrooms that rotate every 20 minutes. There'll be vocals, dance, and instrumentation. And in that structure, we can also mix the right combinations for age and personalities and behaviors. The do's and don'ts, and we're working with someone with disabilities. So don't be offended. So if there's unconventional responses or behaviors. So if you're not used to, I mean, if the child's not making eye contact, for example, that's okay. If there's a delay in response, be patient. Do maintain eye contact. So I've been a music therapist now for 11 years. And in that time, I think the biggest thing that I've learned is it's just about connection. So if you can make a connection somehow that's meaningful and authentic, then you're going to have a positive interaction. So slow down. Don't, you're going to have an inner critic maybe. Ask that to step aside and be open to explore and have fun. And if you're having fun, the performer will be having fun too. So don't use complex jargon. Remember using simple terms. I know in university, and I certainly like to pontificate. I've done my fair share of time in the university. We like to use big words. Remember who you're talking to. To pull it down and be very simple. Take a breath. Slow down when you're communicating, and make sure that they're hearing and understanding you. Keys to remember. We have a schedule. That's very important. A lot of children, specifically, especially with autism, but a lot of them with neurodiversity, find that schedule really reassuring. So that's important that we're all aware of the schedule, we're following it, and then we've got like set times to do things. For example, between each classroom, we're going to have a 5-minute break. It's time to go to the bathroom. That's all the water break, especially after dance. We want to make sure they're hydrated. Also, just for if you're taking your performer to a bathroom, we do have a policy that it's 2 adults in the bathroom if there's an assist that the child needs to be going in. That's just for safety protocol. Give feedback, always be praising. Great job. My God, that looks wonderful. You're doing an awesome job. That's exciting. Like encouragement. If it feels a little artificial, don't worry. Just turn up the amplification a little bit. Give them as many opportunities for success as possible. So the common performer disabilities. So this is a very interesting plan. So we've got language can be a challenge. So autism or developmental or intellectual delay. So one of the things is, remember, allow them some time to respond. Use alternative forms of communication, modeling, pictures. So sometimes we might have a plan of steps for some child who needs that, who's got like some regulation or behavioral or opposites from defiant issues. Having that structure of knowing from A to B to C, knowing where they're going, that helps for them to regulate and reduce that buildup of internal pressure that they deal with, which can be hard for them. Allow the response time, which I was saying, with stimulation. So so remember that sometimes maybe noise can be too much. We will have sound cancelling earphones a little bit, headphones as needed. Maybe the child might need to step out of the room just to cool down because there's too much stuff going on and they're overstimulated. ADHD, dual stimulation, be able to jump up and down while listening to instructions. So in autism, there's a thing called stimming. It's a thing where the child has something to help regulate. And so there's stimming. Often there's been a lot of extinguished beliefs about stimming, but it's becoming more recognized now that this is their way of dealing with internal stimulus. More frequent breaks, so allowing them to have their own time, being mindful of the performer, and if they need a little extra break, that's okay. But one of the roles with behaviorists is they rotate between the rooms. If there's a behavior or something that you're not comfortable with, they're there to support you and lead you. And then if it's too much, you step aside and they will intervene. We know that you're not specifically yet trained in working with children with disabilities in this manner. So we do have the supports, and you will get to see them in action once we get underway. Vision impairment. So right now we have one visually impaired. His name is Noah. You saw him up there on the video. He's coming again, but he will be here virtually. So he's our one virtual Prism project attendee. So just letting you know that that's happening, but that's not going to be an issue in regards to being in person. Other physical impairments. So yeah, so don't assume disability correlates with mental disability. So if there's something, I don't know if you've seen children with cerebral palsy or children with some sort of muscular issues or nervous issues, that doesn't translate to their cognition. So always be open and, put your assumptions aside. Range of diagnoses. So yeah, this is the diagnoses that we have this year. So you can see it's quite a large different array. And neurotypical, I don't know if they call that diagnoses, but I put it in there. I mean, is anyone unfamiliar with any of these diagnoses? Yes?
I have a question. Are the kids or nonverbal, are they going to bring their communication devices or do they not?
So that's one of the questions that we ask the parents when they do the pre-enrollment. And as far as I've seen, there's no communication devices that were requested. So I don't think that's going to be happening. And there may be a little bit of sign. I know a couple of the performers do some basic sign, but it's not a big, it hasn't been traditionally a big thing with our population so far. Do you have some signing experience?
Yeah. I work with other children.
Oh, wonderful. So, well, if there's someone, so that's wonderful to know. So there is going to be a form that if you choose to volunteer that you can fill out, and that if you have that skill set, then we can pair you up with someone who probably would, for that skill set too. So thank you for letting me know. Yeah.
What is oppositional defiant disorder?
What is it? So it's a jargon term, but basically you see it a lot. I see it a lot working with autism, where the child has a hard time regulating, and they'll be oppositional to following being on task. When they have a meltdown, they can become aggressive or angry. So you might see things like stomping, throwing something, and that's kind of like some of the symptoms. So we do have, I do know that we do have 2 children with oppositional defiant disorder this year, and I actually worked with them in a clinic at Crane Pediatrics, so I know their chemistry. So what we've done as a accommodation is we're getting them to meet up before the program starts, because they haven't seen each other for over 2 years. So the one's very excited, so we've got to make sure they can regulate that excitement, and we're going to keep them in separate groups. So that's some of the strategies that we use to keep the cohesion going. Positive behavioral interventions. Yeah, so that's a lot of jargon, but basically positive behavioral interventions, a broad range of systematic and individualized strategies for achieving important social learning outcomes while preventing problem behavior with all students. I don't really get into that kind of language, but for me, getting back to the basics, what I understand is individualized strategies. We're observing the client. What is the need of that client? For example, if a child is having a meltdown, maybe they need to be going out to a room, in a cool down room, and play on an iPad. So that would be, for example, individualized strategy. If a child needs more time, then that would be another way of doing some individualized approaches. Yeah, so it's being proactive in letting problem behaviors come up, like understanding what is the triggers for a child or a young adult. Key concepts to remember. So yeah, like positive affirmations, priming, modeling, prompting, and shaping. So I don't want to do all the talking, so I'm going to ask Addison, from your work previously at Prism Project, what would be some examples that you can call upon when you were doing some positive reinforcement or priming? Putting you on the spot, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a bit different over Zoom because it was kind of hard to see their response and kind of interact with them in that way. But I would say, like, if my buddy wasn't focusing per se, or if like if he was like focusing on something else, I'd be like, I would kind of redirect the focus back to kind of what we were doing, be like, hey, like, let's sing right now. You're doing such a good job singing, and like always keeping it positive, and also remembering like never saying no. That's not your job as a buddy to ever say no or anything. It's just keeping everything positive and engaging. And if it's not working, just kind of redirecting and asking them different questions, engaging with them in a different way. So that's what I would say kind of about that. Yeah, just keeping everything positive, and especially with in person, you'll have other people there with you. You as a buddy, it's just keeping things fun.
Thank you, Edison. And like an example, continuing on what you said, and the behaviors will be there to model for you guys strategies to do that kind of implementation. For example, if rather than saying no, you give a child an alternative. So if a child's having a meltdown or something that's off the task that's at hand, it's like, well, would you like to have a water break? Or would you like to settle down and cool off and then come back versus stop that behavior? So it's trying all of these alternative strategies and thinking like, how can we get the outcome that's in cohesion with the goals of the moment? So let's see if I can play this. Here is a little window into a typical workshop. I'm not sure if the volume is working on this. Let's see. So this is sign up when they come in.
Well, you done me, and you bet I felt it. I tried to beat you, but you're so hot that I melted. I fell right through the cracks. Now I'm trying to get back. Before the cool done run out, I'll be giving it my best. And nothing's gonna stop me but divine intervention. I reckon it's again my turn to win some or learn some, but I won't hesitate no more, no more. It cannot wait. I'm yours. Open up your mind and see like me. Open up your plans and damn, you're free. I look into your heart and you'll find love, 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 love. Listen to the music of the moment, people dance and sing. We're just one big family, and it's our God-forsaken right to be loved. Love, 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 love. So I won't hesitate no more, no more. It cannot wait.
Yeah, you can see, so that's some wonderful examples of buddies being energetic and matching and encouraging joy and connection into the activity, and how it kind of is contagious. How will this relate to the Prism project of Greater New Orleans? Some children may need more help than others. So sometimes you might be assigned a buddy that's not so extroverted and is quiet and not so engaged, and there's going to be a range of different personalities and behaviors and levels of activity with each child. So just remember that there is no successful level. Every level is successful where they're at. Always begin with the modeling behavior, least prompting to most prompting. So for example, you saw someone right there with a drum starting off, maybe handing the drum and your encouragement. If you want to do what's called hand over hand, that's totally fine. If you want a behavior specialist to help you with that, if you feel uncomfortable, and that's just a process where you might grab the mallet over hand like this on the side and helping the child hit the drum with the mallet with a little bit of physical assistance. And I always recommend you ask permission, obviously, before you touch anyone. So it's like, is it okay if I help you? Is it okay if I can grab you? Most times the child will say, yeah, but make sure you do that verbal question first. Some children may understand immediately when given verbal instructions. However, we will mainly start by modeling. So don't do as I say, do as I do. So let the words get out of the way. one of the things as a music therapist, my teachers always told me was stop talking, just do it. You know, so much time we spend trying to communicate our interactions with words, but in this environment and in a therapeutic environment, action and doing are a lot more powerful and direct. Yeah, and then we will go into more, go into partial or more physical prompting, such as hand over hand. So, you know, start off with some modeling first, if need be, and then, you know, we will, you know, there'll be kind of like supports to help you along the way. And a lot of the times the kids just pick up and go, so it's really a non-issue. How will this relate to the Prism project? Always, always, always give praise, even if the action was prompted. So yeah, that's reinforcing. Appropriate behaviors is the key component and the success of the Prism project. So get excited, jump up and down, be enthusiastic, always smile, give verbal praise, give physical praise, high fives, thumbs up, claps, you know, exclamations, stickers and other tangible reinforcers as well. Sometimes we do star charts. It all depends on the need of each individual performer. How will you know you are doing the right thing? We are working with people, so there are really right or correct things. Be natural and genuine, be authentic. You are forming a relationship. You know, that going back to what I was saying about connection. You have days when your energy will be down, and then there's days when the performer's energy is down. That's okay, we're human. I prefer modeling appropriate behavior over chasing someone into it or cajoling them. Not everything we try is going to work. Be patient and be comfortable with that. Progress happens at its own rate with our cast members. Not everyone is going to master every task. And yeah, it's basically, it is a huge mixture. It's a collage of different levels of behaviors. I don't know if this will work. Here's an example of someone, see if it comes up. I'm not sure if this is going to be robust enough. This one. Yes, please. So here's an example of a child. It's very slow. I don't think it's going to work. So they had this problem last time. So we can send you a link of some behaviors if you haven't worked with children on the spectrum. We can add this link to one of the emailings that goes out. Goals for the performers: participation in each area: music, instrument, music, vocal, dance, and theater. So giving you a brief overview, we start off in the first 3 rehearsals. They're going to be rotating, and we're looking what inspires the performer. What is the performer bringing? Perhaps they'll bring a song that they like, and we're going to be listening to the cues and trying to find ways to integrate their own preferences. Then the theatrical part will come in halfway through, when we're going to start asking some of the performers to do pull-outs, and we'll be working on the story or the narration that is going to join the musical material and the movement material together. We have a final performance. We have a dress rehearsal on a Friday evening, and then the performance is that Saturday. So December the 10th is the performance. Friday the 9th will be the dress rehearsal. I think we have one. I think there's a schedule. I'm just coming up to the schedule. We'll move on to that right now. So you can see, I'm kind of going from the end backwards. So you can see the performance here, December 10th, dress rehearsal, and then the final regular rehearsal on the 3rd, and then our starting day, September 17th. At the orientation, what we're going, and this is going to be available. Addison will mail the schedule out to you all if you choose to sign up. The performer orientation is a combination of you meeting the children and the parents meeting the staff, and there'll be a little bit of a training going on afterwards. So we ask you to stay a little bit later on that first day than the 9 to 12:30. Now, the 9 to 12:30 time every Saturday, that's the most extensive range. A lot of times you'll be getting out of here at 12. We really respect your time. We know on Saturdays it's hard to get up, you know, with all other college commitments that we've got going on, late night studying and so forth. So showing up typically is more like 9:15 to 9:20. where you will end up being given some training by the creative staff, a chance for you to connect with the behavior staff. If there's anything that you want to talk about that's concerning you from the previous session, you will have probably 5 minutes per, maybe 3 minutes per staff member to go over what will be taught in that day's classroom, so you're familiar beforehand. And then there'll be a little bit of a warm up, and then we'll break off into our classes, which last for an hour and a bit for 20 minutes, an hour and a half basically for 20 minutes each class. What does a typical rehearsal? Here we go. I just went through it a little premature. It was really right here. So you can see the breakdown. So just take a minute to review that. And if you have any questions right now, is it while you're looking at a typical day, I can ask them. One of the things at the 11:30 to 11:40 parents pick up is we really encourage you to talk to the parents and let them know how their performance did. You'll find over the 10 weekends, you'll start to have a rapport with the parents of the child as well. And they'll be like looking forward to hearing how the child did. Yeah, so towards the end of the 10-week cycle, we start going downstairs at Sanchez Center to the stage, where we'll be walking at the beginning of each Saturday for about half an hour, certain sections, so we get familiar with the movement on that space, or in that space, I should say. What do we expect from our buddies? Here is what the buddies think. Complete application, pre-test, and criminal. Here is what the buddies think, or what is expected of the buddies. We have to do a criminal background check on you all, and Addison has got some stuff together. Is Mia here? Hi. Nice to meet you in person. So this would be a good time for you to talk a little bit about that. Annika was a Tulane United for Autism president, and she has created a online Google document for you all to fill out. So the application is quite streamlined. Can you talk a little bit about that right now? Do you mind?
Sure. So we're gonna send out a Google form to you guys, ASAP, whatever that is. You guys have to fill it out if you decide to volunteer, because within that includes a few of the different aspects that we need to make sure you guys are cleared and ready to volunteer, such as the background check. And once you guys complete the form, Annika will email you guys individually the link you guys have to fill out. And we're going to keep track of each step of what you guys need to have done before the first orientation.
Yeah, thank you. So the waiver is basically a document saying that we have permission to film you, use your image and your audio for promotional purposes for the nonprofit to promote the program. So you sign permission there. There's also a liability waiver, and so no harm liability waiver, will hold no harm. And I think that's mainly the nuts and bolts of the waiver. The background check is for the New Orleans Police Department criminal background check, which is required. There's a $5 fee that we ask for you to cover for that. And we need to get your physical signature, and we have a physical form. And to make it easier, this form is that I can go down and file them all at one time, rather than having to go to the New Orleans Police Department, which is kind of awkward to do with traffic and parking and whatnot. And the other thing is I would need a photocopy of the front and back of a state ID or passport or something to verify your identification for that background check application process. So there was the waiver, the background check, there's the application itself, and then I think there is a darkness to light training as well. What that is a sexual prevention training. It's required by the city of New Orleans if we use their facilities. So we're all required to do it. We got permission not to have you all get certified, and we made it an amended version with a PowerPoint, and we now put it on video. So you just watch the video and sign that you've seen it. It's a lot easier than going online and paying a fee and doing the exam at the end of their training, and that's enough. But all staff actually have to be certified in that Prism works for, the Prism hires. So going into the steps, arriving at rehearsal between 9 and 9:15 is for you. We do have bagels and coffee for you every Saturday. Some years it's been Pandora, and cream cheese. So that we found that really helps early in the morning with breakfast and coffee for the motivation and energy. So that comes as part of your volunteering. Then you get the performer to greet your performer as they arrive from the caregiver. We have a sign-up table. The parents sign their child in. We have a certain protocol that we have with that. And so when you bring them with positive energetic, when you meet a parent, keep an eye out for emerging talents. One year, one of the performers loved that song from Beetlejuice by Harry Belafonte, the Banana Boat song, if you remember that song, and it ended up becoming a feature piece because she started singing it, and we turned it into a whole performance piece. So, be aware and let us know, because we have like a 3-4 week window in the beginning where we can use their material and integrate it into the program. Take data on your performer during rehearsal. At the end of each rehearsal, there will also be a virtual document to track what you've noticed about the performer. This is essential for grant writing purposes. We do stats at the end of each season and submit analysis to our funders so they can see the effects of the program in a quantitative and qualitative manner. So that will also be, Mia will be walking you through that on the orientation part of day 1 on September 17th. There will be a folder at the end of the day where you sit down with your buddy, and it's their own personal folder, and together you can talk about what they did well. So there's a sense of ownership of how the day went, and there's some connection with you and them to see the evidence of the engagement. Take your performer to his parent, read them, and tell them something or highlight something positive, and then say goodbye. So stay at the rehearsal for the debriefing. There's a chance. Oh, this is really important. So in 2020, we implemented a new system where we did it. I kind of called it in the round. And basically the idea behind it is every voice is equally important. And we want you to advocate for yourselves and for your buddy. And that each voice is listened to equally. It's kind of like when you have that talking stick ceremony and everyone is heard in the circle, because what we found is with that level of respect and attention to each individual, no matter where we are in our training, we get investment and we get better advocacy for the performance from everyone involved. And it was just really, so that's what part of the debriefing is, also for you to speak up what you noticed and speak up for what you feel your performer might need that maybe we didn't notice because you're there with them during the whole time. We're all the staff is, managing a lot more moving parts. So your eyes and ears is closest to the performer than anyone else. We also want to maximize your skills and abilities. For example, like what you were saying with knowing some American Sign Language, that kind of stuff. If you have music talents or skills, let us know. If you want to be involved in working in specific parts, we have instruments, we have percussions, we have iPads with melodic instruments built into the iPads. We have the dancing and the vocal parts. So tell us about that. We want to see how we can all come together. If you have interest in the psychological or behavioral aspects, we can team up with the behavior interventionists or the behavior specialists. I'm sorry. So the community service, if you're interested in nonprofit work, that would be more on the administrative side. That is something that we can set up later. We are beginning to build an affiliation with the Center for Service Learning. So hopefully in spring 2023, we'll do some continuing tier 1 or start tier 1 more integrated with that. So with other programs affiliated with Prism Project and similar to. Supervision of junior directors, because we have older performers this year. help, maybe they're not going to be in the normal circle of the rotating classes, and they'll be like, maybe taking photos the whole time, and if that's something you're interested in, we'll continue up with maybe a couple of them who do videography. So there are those kind of aspects as well. All of that will become apparent after the first couple of Saturdays. What if you have any questions or concerns? So there is a level of like accountability. So first consider consulting with a fellow volunteer. If you have something that's concerning you, and then just walk down the path here, then we ask you to report to the Prism 2A or volunteer coordinator, which is out Addison, sorry, 2 Ds, right? Report to your creative coordinator, which will be in the room, or the behavior specialist. So the dance is Andre Pebbles, vocals is Abigail Lovely, and instrument is Chris Shear. Is Abigail in here?
Yeah.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm sorry. Finally, I know. We do all of this in Zoom. So Abigail is the vocal coordinator and the music therapist. Report to the Prism Administrative Creative Director, which is me. And then my supervisor is Aisha Johnson, and she is the CEO of Families Helping Families of South. It's now NOLA, no longer SELA. So it's NOLA rather than Southeast Louisiana.